All right, all good? Good morning, and thank you all for being here. This is the DAO's weekly press conference. We are here in a special place at a special time to talk about gun violence, more specifically, gun violence in Kensington. We will do this in two parts. As you may notice, we have a struggle today between the light and the dark. Part one is we want to talk about a case. It is an interesting case involving drugs and guns and a defendant named Edgardo Rivera. Mr. Rivera operated in Kensington as a drug dealer. He was caught with 9 guns, 3 of which had been modified to be fully automatic. It's pretty gruesome stuff that he was possessing, and I think we all know what the purpose was for possessing it. It has been a fact for a very long time that as we look at the shootings that occur in Philadelphia, a very disproportionate number of them occur in the area of Kensington, and no one disputes that some of that is related to the drug trade that occurs in and around this part of the city. We will talk about that case, but we will also talk about this community, how resilient it is and what it is doing to build community, to combat gun violence, to address the trauma, the grief, and the suffering that have been caused for decades in Kensington by gun violence. And we will be doing so right here by looking at what has happened in what the neighborhood now calls Peace Park. There's no official name for this park. In fact, it's not a park. It's actually owned by a group called the Simple Way. It's not owned by the city. It's owned by a group called the Simple Way that has been operating here for decades doing really important work in the community. But through the good efforts of the Mural Arts Project and through the excellent work of the artist himself, Jacob C. Hammes, also known as Chris Hammes, who is here, something beautiful has been made out of weapons of destruction, which we have before us. I'm not going to explain it. We're going to let him explain it, but when I heard about it, I have to tell you, I was very impressed and very excited about what was happening here. All right, so first of all, I would like to talk about some of the good people who are here, introduce them to you, and then we'll get into some more details. We have with us today ADA Paul Riddell, who is the chief of the DAO's Dangerous Drug Offender Unit. To my right, your left, we have ADA Keon Cook, who is an attorney, a prosecutor in the DAO's Dangerous Drug Offender Unit, wearing that excellent fedora right behind me. We have Lieutenant Kenny Lee, who is a DA's detective with the DAO's Dangerous Drug Offender Unit. He is here as well. We have Tania Leonard, director of the DAO's CARES Unit, which, as you know, works intensively with the families of homicide victims in the first 45 days, and sadly has had a lot of work to do in this area over the years. We have with us Mariel Dela Cruz, who is the director of the DAO's Victim Services Unit. Those are folks from the office. But we are also delighted to have with us today Shane Claiborne. That's S-H-A-N-E, last name C-L-A-I-B-O-R-N-E, who wears a lot of hats, but he is the founder of Raw Tools Philly. He is also a pastor in this neighborhood, has been for a long time. He's been living in this neighborhood for 30 years and doing a lot of amazing work. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. We have with us Jane Golden, founder and executive director of the Mural Arts Program of Philadelphia, with which you are all familiar. It is an internationally known, internationally respected public arts organization that has done amazing things in and for the city. We have with us Nadia Malik, who is the program director for Porchlight. Porchlight, I understand, to be under the umbrella of the Mural Arts Program, and Porchlight was very involved with what you are seeing before you. And then, of course, we have the artist himself. We have Jacob C. Chris Hammes, who is the artist responsible for this particular and fascinating work. Couple of notes for all of you on data around crime and gun violence, more specifically in Philadelphia. Obviously, there is no celebration when it comes to numbers as they relate to homicide victims. No homicide victim is acceptable. Obviously, we would like to be like one of those countries where they have next to no fatal shootings in a year. And yes, there are countries like that, just not here. But we need to look at the numbers as we also talk about people suffering in individual cases. And what we see as of today, meaning through midnight on the 20th of July 2025, is that Philadelphia still has the lowest number of homicides on the 20th of July in over 50 years today. A fact that is, once again, very remarkable because we are still the poorest of the 10 largest cities. That hasn't changed. It's still remarkable because there are more guns on the streets of the city of Philadelphia every day, every single day, than there were the day before. And if you want some specifics on that, try this. There were about 780,000 guns sold in Pennsylvania last year. There were about 12,000 taken off the street by police. That math does not reduce guns. That math, unfortunately, means we have more and more guns, and yet we have fewer and fewer homicides. And a lot of that work has been done by community-based organizations. It has been done by pastors. It is being done here by artists. It has been done on the enforcement side as well by the Philadelphia Police Department, our federal partners, and by some of the folks who are going to be explaining the case of Edgardo Rivera. So terrible as it is, and it is terrible whenever there is a fatality from gun violence, and it is terrible what has been going on in Kensington for decades in terms of gun violence. As terrible as it is, we also need to hold the truth that the numbers are comparatively low. There has not been, in the last 50 years, a year, not one, when there were fewer than 130 homicides on this date. Not one. And today it is 126. Nothing to celebrate, as I said before, but certainly it is positive. I would also point out, because the whole issue with public safety is not just homicide, and it is not just homicide by gun. I would also point out that the number of victims of shootings right now in Philadelphia is down over 20% from last year. And understand that last year in the United States was the best year for public safety improvement in terms of gun violence in the history of the United States. And last year was a year when Philadelphia led the nation among cities with more than 1 million in population in terms of its reduction. So we are not done getting better. And we are doing way better than we were doing when we came into office. But having said all of that, the credit is not with my office. The credit is, in fact, with all kinds of people, many of whom have nothing at all to do with government and are simply good coaches, good school teachers, good parents, good deacons in their churches, good neighbors. And it has a lot to do with organizations like the ones that we are going to highlight today. All right, having said that, it is my pleasure at this time to call forward ADA Paul Riddell, who's the chief of the Dangerous Drug Offender Unit, with ADA Keon Cook, whose work he supervises, to talk jointly and separately about the Edgardo Rivera case. After they speak, I'll come back up. We'll introduce some more speakers and speak a little bit more about this topic. Gentlemen.
Good morning. First, I want to thank our partners in the Philadelphia Police Department, specifically Inspector Washington and Captain Deacon, for their hard work and efforts on a daily basis for the community of Philadelphia and the drug investigations. Traditionally, the Dangerous Drug Offender Unit has been focused on long-term drug investigations, which includes maybe months and even years of investigations. In these matters, we've invested ourselves with DEA, Pennsylvania State Police, FBI, and of course PPD. But we heard from the community and we heard from law enforcement locally that they need more help and more assistance for these local cases, which impact the community every day. So in this case, we have expanded our efforts, and ADA Keon Cook is part of that expanded efforts to invest ourselves vertically and prosecute these cases all the way from the bottom to the top in these local drug investigations, and specifically you'll see the amount of guns that we've recovered in this case, which are so dangerous to the larger community. And with that, I'll introduce ADA Keon Cook.
Thank you. Good morning. So this case was part of the Kensington initiative that ran from April 30th over to May 2nd. This case, as Chief Riddell indicated, it involves the Narcotics Field Unit. So this case involved an investigation from the officers from March to the end of April. And during this time, they observed multiple narcotics transactions involving this defendant. On April the 29th, at that time, a search warrant was executed on the block of Venango, and at that time, multiple things was recovered: non-firearms, drugs, as well as cash. So it was approximately $19,000 worth of narcotics, crack cocaine, hydro marijuana, about $10,000 in cash. The non-guns include a SCA CPX handgun, a Taurus G3 handgun, a Glock 45 handgun that was converted with an illegal switch to be fully automatic, a Glock 19, which also converted, a Smith & Wesson S&P or S&D with a laser attachment, a Glock 17 handgun, a Roman Mini Draco rifle, a DPMS A15 fully automatic assault weapon that had a sawed-off barrel, a Freedom Ordnance FX 9mm. In addition to these firearms, also recovered was high-capacity ammo, traditionally known as the ammo drums. Last week, this matter went to court for a preliminary hearing. All charges was held, and the charges include possession with the intent to deliver, conspiracy, simple possession, instruments of crime, criminal communication, possessing offensive weapons, and obviously possession of weapons. So I would like to take the time to thank the officers that was involved with this, particularly Captain Deacon and the field unit, Lieutenant Payne, Sergeant McKinney, the officers that was involved with the actual execution, Officer Portella, Officer Bullock, and Officer Flynn. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We said from darkness to light, and light is sneaking up on us. So, given the prior advice, I'll keep moving. When you got a problem, you got to keep moving. Anyway, so we have heard a little bit about one more indication that there's more work to be done. When you find a drug dealer rolling around with that much cash, 9 guns, who has converted some of those guns to be fully automatic, that means a machine gun, folks. That's what that means. That means you can spray up the whole place. When that's what you're looking at, there's obviously a lot more work to be done. But the really good news is that there is work getting done in Kensington. There has been for years. It's not just at the level of government. A lot of it is at the level of community. And there are so many good organizations here, so many good neighbors who are doing that work. They're the ones who call this place Peace Park. It doesn't have an official name. They're the ones who call this place Peace Park. I can tell you that we at the DA's office are delighted to have had the opportunity to support, among many others, with our micro grants that come from forfeiture money. In other words, you might say it's recycling drug dealer money back into helping the neighborhoods that were harmed. But let me just highlight a couple of those organizations so you know how much time and how deep our involvement has been, because we do believe that where the money comes for forfeiture, it should go. Where the harm has been done, those funds should return. We have funded organizations that work in the Kensington area, including the Apologues, APOLOGUES, the Apologues, which, as many of you may know, do portraits of homicide victims, among other things. Rebel Arts Dance, the Kensington Soccer Club, which last I checked worked with 1,200 young people a year, 1,200. And no, they don't just teach soccer, they teach conflict resolution in an area where there are so many different backgrounds and so many different languages that it is helpful in ways that go well beyond kicking a soccer ball. We work with Rock Ministries. That would be Pastor Buddy Osborne with his boxing program. And you have undoubtedly seen us there a number of times. Savage Sisters. We have worked with the Mighty Riders. And we've also worked with Raw Tools Philly, which brings me to our next speakers. We have with us Shane Claiborne. There's a lot I could say about Shane. I'm not sure that he wants all of it said. Hey, did I misspell your first name? Is it S-H-A-N-E or S-H-A-I-N-E?
No I. Yeah.
No I, okay. I got it right the first time. We're going to hear from Shane Claiborne first. We're going to hear from Chris Hammes second, who is the artist responsible for this. We're going to hear jointly and separately from Jane Golden of Mural Arts and Nadia Malik of Porchlight. I will not get up in between their opportunities to speak, but I will get up afterwards and have a few more things to say. It is my pleasure at this time to bring forward my friend and Philadelphia's friend. Well, that actually applies to all of these folks, but Shane Claiborne.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you for showing up here, not just for a shooting, but for a day to celebrate, as we see on the benches here, that a better world is possible. And I've lived in Kensington, like Larry said, for 30 years, co-founded The Simple Way, founded Raw Tools, and we're all aware of the heaviness of gun violence and opioids in Kensington. But what is also here is resilience and a defiant hope and community. And across the street, the Mural Arts mural says that hope lives here. And this space is a reclaiming of this space for hope to say all things can be made new. And we get our name at Raw Tools from flipping the word war around, and we chop up guns, voluntarily surrendered firearms from individuals, from law enforcement. We destroy them, and that's what you'll hear more about from Chris. But we also turn them into tools, inspired by the biblical vision of beating swords into plows and spears into pruning hooks. We turn guns into garden tools. And every time we do it, we say, all things can be made new. And what's true of metal is also true of human hearts. People are more than the worst thing that they've ever done. And so while violent crime should have consequences, we believe in restorative justice. We believe in the healing of folks who have been harmed, but also the healing of people who have done harm. So it's always a privilege to collaborate with folks here. And I have a lot of stuff on the table here. These are actually bullet casings from the neighborhood. We've picked them up. A reminder of how deeply personal this is. Even when we were in an organizing meeting in the building right there, and while we were meeting, someone opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle, shot 2 people, blew out the transistor. It knocked all the electricity out while we were in a meeting praying and organizing around gun violence. So this is real. It has names. This memorial, as Chris will probably mention, it lights up every 11 minutes to remember a life lost to gun violence. That's the stat. Even though it's lower in Philadelphia, our nation's seeing over 40,000 lives a year lost to gun violence. So we remember that by the warm lighting every 11 minutes. And every one of those has a name. And sadly, disproportionately, many of those names are in this neighborhood. Even within walking distance on 8th Street, you can see memorials that still have candles lit, remembering the lives lost. So we're here to say policies can change, metal can change, people can change, and we want to be a part of making that change.
Hi, I'm Chris Hammes. I guess I'm supposed to talk about the artwork that you see here. I had the privilege to work with Shane on this. We started almost 2 years ago talking about what we might do. We were sort of introduced through Mural Arts. We both were metal workers and woodworkers and blacksmiths, and somehow we immediately sort of understood like that aspect of our work is the idea of change through labor. So what we're looking at here is sort of based off of the idea of a fire pit. I'll wait for that to stop. When we were when we were trying to come up with the idea of what the site might be, we met with a group of teenagers who all of them had shockingly experienced a great deal of gun violence living in this neighborhood. At one point, we were doing welding demos, we were doing blacksmithing demos, wood turning demos, and they asked if they could make a fire pit. That became the kind of form that you're looking at here. This is supposed to kind of resemble a fire pit as a communal space, as a place of social life, of transformation. Fire is a theme, obviously, in the work that Shane does, lighting up the forge, hammering hot metal and turning them into other objects. Here you see mostly things that are untransformed. This is all the waste product from the guns. This is all the stuff left over. It's displayed in kind of a museological style, as though it's an archaeological excavation. Part of this is a little bit of utopian thinking. I was thinking about how maybe in the future we'll have a society where gun violence is a thing of the past. And maybe we can look at these objects as though they're fossils, something that's part of the fossil record. This took a great deal of labor on my part to build all of this stuff. I haven't even really had a chance to sit and think about it very much. We just had the opening of it yesterday, but I'm very pleased with the community response so far. Yeah. I don't know who's next.
So hi everyone. Thank you, DA Krasner, for inviting us here today, to Shane and Chris, to A Simple Way. Thank you. It takes a village to do this work. You all might know Mural Arts because there are 4,400 works of public art that grace the walls of our city, and that's really remarkable, wonderful, and inspiring. But we also have a robust programmatic division. We work in restorative justice, we work in prisons with people coming home, we have an art education program serving thousands of young people each year, and we have our Porch Light program, which is our partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. And as part of that program, we've been embedded in Kensington for many, many years, and every year we do a signature project. And the signature project means that we go beyond the mural, as much as we love murals, and we do something different. And we connect with wonderful, extraordinary artists. And I think what this work shows us is that change is possible. Mural arts is driven by the idea that art can change lives. We are working at the behest of citizens across this city, and we think that art can be more than just useful, it is transformational. When we first became Mural Arts, we did a project in Grace Ferry, a peace mural. And we worked with groups that there were beatings, there was a murder, and we said, oh, we want to do an art project. And people are like, Jane Golden, you're the most naive person ever. And we did it, and it brought people together. Fast forward, we did a project called Healing Walls with victims advocates, victims in the men at Graterford Prison. People are like, it's never going to work. And it worked. Over and over again, when we started Color Me Back, our program for people facing housing insecurity, oh, it won't work. Tell us it won't work, and we're going to tell you, let's try. And what I love about what Shane and Chris are doing, that they just fly in the face of negativity and people like citing what all the obstacles are. And the wonderful thing about art, and I know I am biased, but art opens up and it allows us to see the light and the path forward. Our work shows us the transcendent power that art has, and it shows us indeed that a better world is possible. The change we see it in individuals, we see it on communities, and think about it. By extension, there's a giant impact on the civic life of our city as we've turned Philadelphia into an art museum, but one that has deep meaning and resonance for the citizens who are here. Thank you.
Hey all, I'm Nadia Malik. I'm the director of the Porch Light Department. As Jane mentioned, we're a partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. As Jane also mentioned, we have a long-term commitment to the Kensington community. We've been in the community in a very embedded way for a decade. We have a storefront right around the corner, right next to Raw Tools. Shane is a great neighbor. But as we've mentioned before, we do this work because we think we can give people a pathway away from gun violence. But that pathway doesn't exist unless someone believes that it exists, right? We need to give people an alternative to what they're doing, to the possibilities that are open to them. We also really, truly believe that public art gives people a reason to be out in public and to create a safer environment. The mural that Shane mentioned behind us, when we were out here painting it for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, that meant the community was out in public. That meant that there was an activity happening when that mural was being painted. That meant that the activity that could have been happening, people found other spaces to do it in, right? It gave the community a space to be out and to be out in public. And that's been the biggest honor for me working in Kensington, is that the community is really dedicated. You'll find people here who've lived here for decades. They don't want to leave. They believe in this community, and they're the reason that we get to do this amazing work. They're the reason that the gun violence numbers are shifting in this community, because they're dedicated to it. And that's really where we get to do our work. We get to talk to the community members about what they want. We get to find amazing artists to do that. And then this Peace Park that most people, I think, in the neighborhood wouldn't think was possible, in this empty lot that's been sitting here, that was burned down, that's been sitting here for a while. Most people wouldn't have believed that it was possible that we could do this amazing piece here, but we found the simple way. We found Shane, we found Chris, and we made that a possibility. And that hope is what keeps people in this community and gives people alternatives to lifestyles that include gun violence.
All right, thank you so much for those words. I'm going to move the podium back again here as soon as I adjust the technology, as they say. All right, Dan Sheridan, Channel 6 ABC. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you. Cristobal Mora, 10 Telemundo. Do you have any questions? In Spanish, I'll try. Oh, you want to do it later? Okay, very good. Claudia Vargas, Channel 10 NBC. Let me commune with my colleagues here and see what we got. Are you able to talk about that? I know you have another question. We'll come to that. This is a very active investigation, and while we will have a comment on that at a later time, we can't comment on that just yet. Do you have another question?
Yeah, I do, but I guess just to clarify, more reporting today, is it alleged that all of these, like, this kind of like a product papers, like he was arrested and charged with having 9 guns and all these crimes, like it's just his operation?
Yes, I'd say that's fair.
The other question, just looking at case outcomes with gun and drug possession, seems to be about 50% of those end up guilty verdicts. So just curious, how you explain that to the community. Like, this person has been arrested, you're pressing charges, but oftentimes they walk away. So how is this any different?
Well, I mean, 50 is actually kind of an optimistic number. I don't know if you know this, but if you go back and look at the coverage of Lynn Abraham, you'll find out that her average conviction rate was about 25%. It was not 50%. Simply put, the court process is complex. There's an awful lot of boxes that have to be checked. Witnesses have to show up. They do often, they don't always. Searches have to be legal. They are often, they're not always. Scientific results have to come back, and they have to come back on time. That can happen. Sometimes it doesn't. Defendants have to show up, not just run and be on bench warrant status. That can happen as well. So it's always a struggle for prosecutors who have to, in some ways, be the conductors of an orchestra to get all the different instruments playing well and to come out with beautiful music. That's always a struggle. But I can tell you it's one that we take very seriously. And we are not going to let perfect be the enemy of good, or in this case, really good. We're going to keep pushing as hard as we can to try to get the proper outcomes in these cases. All right, let me see now. Pete Santo, 29 Fox. Any questions, sir? All right, thank you. Geisha Torres, 65 Univision. Okay, we'll do that later. And then we have Dan Horan. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep. Just one question. How can people get involved in programs like this in their community?
Wow, what a great question. let me huddle with people who know more than me, which is all of them. But let me do that. And you three, if you want to address that, just come on up. Just make sure you're close to the mic still.
Well, for sure, if people want to get involved with mural arts, you can reach out to us through muralarts.org. Reach out to me, Jane Golden. But there are many ways to volunteer with us. We have a wonderful hub here in Kensington. People can assist on works of public art. You can be a docent. We have a great tour program. We're a big, busy organization, and we always love people to get involved. Our work is driven by community. So thank you for that really great question, but Nadia might have other ideas.
As Jane mentioned, we have a program called Call Me Back. We work with folks who are unhoused, economically insecure. So we open up the sign up for that every couple months. So if you go to our muralarts.org website, you can sign up and look for Call Me Back. So that is a program where we pay people to paint with us. Again, it's a low barrier work program. You work with us for a week, you get paid cash, $50 every day to work with us. And then we are also embarking on a very large project in Kensington. So we'll have some public dates for community events and community programs that we'll be doing in the upcoming year with City Council Ketsi Lozada's office.
We're really comprehensive and hubbed here in Kensington. So I've got information on the table. We've got 6 different nonprofits working on affordable housing, helping kids with homework, giving out food. Like we just opened a new library, so there's all kinds of ways that folks can get involved. And Raw Tools Philly is our website around gun violence. On our website, there's information on how to surrender or donate safely and legally unwanted firearms. We do that by appointment or by an on-site visit. There's ways people can volunteer and learn the crafts. We're doing firearm safety classes. We give out free gun locks and lock boxes. We're doing de-escalation work, so check it out at Raw Tools Philly, and I've got information on the table.
All right, thank you for all those good words. A couple more comments for you. If you're looking at this art installation, the artist covered about 99.9% of it, but there's 0.1%. I want to make sure you know, because I'm simple. There are 4 pieces missing. What are they? They are very thick, pie-shaped pieces of glass that are going to go on top. My understanding is that glass will be so sturdy and so thick that you could even stand on it. That will be enclosing this work of art, and therefore, if you come back to see it in a few weeks, what you're going to see every 11 or 12 minutes is you're going to see the light come on to remind us of how often someone is shot and harmed in the United States. You're going to see a park where people gather. You're going to see that they are facing each other when they gather, and they are facing this, hoping that this will actually look like an archaeological dig. It will actually look like a thing of the past someday, whenever we decide that we want to join other countries that do not have 100 murder victims, and I can think of one country, they have 11. Or another country, half as big as the United States, where they are expected to have a total of 1 fatal shooting all year. And I can tell you what country that is. There's no reason why a country that calls itself the greatest country in the world can't be that. There's no reason why we can't actually have reasonable gun regulation, try to bring this under control, and far less misery going on in our society. I thank you all for being here. I know that, yes, sir. I'm sorry, did I miss you? Oh, my bad. I did miss you. My apologies.
When did this, I might have missed this or didn't hear it. When was this park kind of, established and this art installation installed? Was that recently or?
We dedicated it yesterday.
Jane, we have to speak at the
sorry.
microphone. Shane, why don't you come up and talk about the
Yeah,
park?
Shane. We dedicated this yesterday, but we've been working on this for a long time. What'd you say?
2 years.
We've been working on it for 2 years. Big projects like this are rather complex, but we have a genius behind it.
Well, no, we're doing it together, but it is important that this space has a history. And part of that history, when I moved here in 1998, this was an abandoned house that we got for $1, built a community center, but there was an abandoned city-owned factory across the street that caught on fire multiple times, burnt this block down, burnt the whole house, all the row houses here down. So we originally called it Phoenix Park because it rose out of the ashes, and we've been rebuilding it ever since as a neighborhood. That's why this is extra special. Even this mural was painted in 2013. So it's been a work in progress, but this is permanent. And it's wild because we looked all over the city for where this should go. And I had to abstain from the vote because I felt like I had a little conflict of interest, but we couldn't be more honored to have it here, and we hope the world comes to Kensington to see what's possible and what resilience looks like and what imagination looks like. And we've already got our minds spinning on ways that we can do things like this in other parts of the city of Philadelphia, incorporating chopped up guns into other installations.
All right, I will remain available, we all will, for Spanish language media. Any other questions, or are we good at this time? All right, thank you all for being here, appreciate you.
My name is Jane Golden, and I'm the executive director of the Mural Arts program here in Philadelphia.
How long have you been the director of the program?
Since I founded it in 1998.
Oh wow, so
Yeah.
almost 28 years.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yes.
What made you found the program?
Well, I had been working prior to starting Mural Arts. I worked for the Anti-Graffiti Network for 10 years, and I saw the power that art had, not just in communities, but on young lives. And I saw how art could be a lifeline. And so when the program closed, I was actually going to go to law school. Thankfully, my brother talked me out of that. He's a lawyer. And he encouraged me to see the mayor then, who's Ed Rendell, and ask if he would create a community-based public art program. And so he agreed, and suddenly we were Mural Arts, and we were at the Department of Recreation. And from that point on, 1998, 99, we just never looked back. And we just moved ahead. We've worked for 5 mayors, and we just are so determined to put art to work on behalf of citizens across our city.
What has been your most memorable moment during that 28 journey, working under 5 different groups? What has been something that stood out to you, whether it be a project or a memory?
Well, I think every mayor has been really interesting to work for, and we have figured out a way to build like colleagues and friends and allies. But I would say it was really during the 2005 to 2007, we started to expand our restorative justice work, and we did this major project with crime victims, let me say it again. We started working with crime victims, victims advocates, and the men in the prison. We had a class at Graterford Prison, now it's Phoenix. And we all came together because there was a spike in violence in our city, and the idea was, could you build a big village of people who've experienced crime and violence from different angles and really take a restorative justice like framing. And so we brought everyone into the conversation. We did a series of along Germantown Avenue, and when we brought people together, everyone pointed the finger. It was everyone wanted to claim they had more pain. People blamed the other person. But when we all painted together in this giant auditorium in the prison, people started to really talk about not just difference but commonality. And what happened during that several year period of time, we got additional funding. We invested in that part of North Philadelphia. A lot of the men who were in the prison felt shame. Some of them got out and like productive, wonderful lives now. Some of the victims advocates started to embrace art as a therapeutic approach. Like everybody in it was changed.
What has been the most rewarding part of it all for you?
I think consistently, the most rewarding thing for me is seeing people change. It's seeing people who were in the class at the state prison get out and move on with their lives in many different ways. The Carnegie Institute, Haverford College, being a well-known artist or going into design or teaching. It's working with graffiti writers and seeing them sort of hold on to art as a way to lead them on to other paths. It's working with communities and seeing them like see art as a tool of reclaiming space and being a mirror that says to people, like it reflects back people's lives in a way that has real power. It's like putting a stake in the ground and saying your life matters. And I think that collection of work in the city, it's over 4,400 murals, large and small, inside out. It's really the autobiography of the city of Philadelphia. So the art itself has power, but then there are all these people working on it, and that has power as well. So you see both communal change and individual change at the same time. So for me, it's infinite. And the projects we do, sometimes it's murals, sometimes it's non-murals, and so that means that we're tapping into the cultural
Conversation,
in a
we decided that we would
important way. We employ hundreds of artists every year. So not only are we employing people, not only do we have all these programs, we're putting artists to work. And so it's a way of giving respect to the community, to artists, and to citizens everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your time.
So to be really clear and transparent, I feel like I was mostly background vocals on this thing here, but it's been amazing to work with Chris. My main job was to chop guns, and that's what we do. We get them so many different ways. They're all voluntarily surrendered. So there's dozens and dozens of guns from Philly and also from other places too that folks are maybe just rethinking pistols in their house, or someone's passed away and they inherited guns. Sadly, some of them have stories. More than half of gun deaths are suicides, so a lot of guns were used in a suicide. So we've chopped all those up. We do it in a way that is legal and safe, and nothing can be repurposed. And so those get kind of shredded, and then this collaboration to create the piece here was 2 years in the works. So just kind of imagining and thinking through what we could do. The idea, we wanted a space that was life-giving, that's not re-traumatizing or something, but that it, there's a lot of things here that nod towards the reality of guns, but also towards the idea that we're building a new world. We're going to transform and repurpose things that have brought death into things that bring life. So even the mulch here and the wood chips are from the wood of the wood stock of the guns. So yesterday we had 2 piles of it, all from guns that people could sprinkle in the beds. We're going to have that here so people can keep doing it. And many of my neighbors have stories of how they've been impacted and people that they've lost to the gun violence. And we put pieces of guns. We allowed them also to put pieces of guns into the memorial here. And the idea of lighting it up was a way that we thought, we don't want it to be eerie, but we want a way that reminds us that there's a lot at stake right now. And it feels like that, 11 minutes comes really quickly. And the fact that it's over 120 lives a day lost to gun violence. We can't save every life, but we can do a whole lot better than that.
For sure. What is one of the memories that stuck out for you during the process of all this? Not just the bonfire pit, but Peace Park, the decades long of you being in this area. What is one memory that kind of sticks out above all else and is like a true menu of persistence through hard times and getting to the grass on the greener side?
Yeah. There's so many stories over 30 years, but even when the fire happened, I remember there were 100 families that were displaced, and so the Red Cross set up a shelter here, and the workers came, the volunteers, and they said, you got to hear this. Nobody ended up using the shelter because everybody in your neighborhood opened up their homes to each other and started taking care of each other. My neighbor, Miss Sunshine, she took in all the cats that were displaced. Built one beautiful new addition to positive and kind of points that in a new direction. We had the forge out here yesterday, so we allow people to invite people to beat on the guns. And one of the stories with that I'll never forget was a young man that beat 18 times, and he counted out loud, 1, 2, to 18. You knew there was something to that. And then later he said, I took the life of an 18-year-old. And so as I was counting up to 18, I'm praying that those wounds would be healed, the wounds that I inflicted, but also that my own heart would be healed. So it's on so many fronts that we have that kind of vision of restoration and the idea that people can change, metal can change, and policies can change, and we need all of those.
All right, well, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.